Hi, welcome to Miss Richardson's 5-minute lectures for U.S. history. This information will be U.S. Notes 3.6, Mobilization and Propaganda. It includes information that's aligned with the second section on your Unit 3 study guide. Now remember, you have control over the lecture, so pause whenever you need to, write down any questions, and re-watch or rewind if you need. And make sure you're using that study guide to help you take those notes. Let's go ahead and get started. As I said in the last notes, in December of 1941, the U.S. was pulled into World War II. The surprise attack by the Japanese on Pearl Harbor led to a declaration of war on Japan, which led to Germany and Italy declaring war against the U.S. America was at war, but were they actually ready for that? The U.S. had been preparing for war for some time when the Pearl Harbor attack occurred. We'd already been trading destroyers for bases and selling military goods to Britain on a cash and carry basis. So we had already been prepping for this. In 1941, it was time to turn up our industry and prepare our own troops as quickly as possible. The U.S. surprised the world by how quickly we were able to mobilize for war. Mobilization is the act of preparing troops and goods for war. Existing factories swapped their manufacturing focus from civilian production to wartime production. Factories that had built cars switched to jeeps and military vehicles, fireworks switched to munitions. All these sorts of things allowed for the U.S. to rapidly supply the troops. This rapid mobilization also ended the Great Depression. While the New Deal had helped with the country, the demands of the factories and the new factories opening almost eliminated unemployment in the U.S. This is the one and only time in history that war was actually good for the economy. Nearly the entire country was employed by World War II. Men enlisted in the military and women and minorities went to work in factories to support those fighting the war. Everyone supported defeating the Japanese and getting revenge for the attack on Pearl Harbor. If you look at here, you can actually see under the unemployed, we're down below 2% in the last 3 years of the war, down from 14.5% in 1940. So people were supporting this. So in order to ensure efficient and focused production, the U.S. created agencies to oversee war production. Groups like the War Production Board, or the WPB, helped businesses convert to wartime production from civilian production. Those cars to jeeps and military vehicles and things like that. They could also set priorities and production goals, as well as control distribution of the products. This power actually created feuds and tension with the military, so FDR also created the Office of War Mobilization to settle arguments between the two agencies. The two agencies being the WPB and the military. Other agencies were created to help sell the war to the American public. In order for the U.S. to win the war, they needed every American, not just the troops, to be actively working towards the goal of victory. To do this, the U.S. used propaganda. Propaganda is materials used to promote a cause, in this case, winning World War II. Propaganda was created to help conserve goods, to get everyone working, and to sell war bonds to help pay for the war. Even with the entire country at work, we could not produce enough goods during this time. This led to rationing or limiting the amount of goods an individual can buy. The Office of Price Administration, or OPA, was created to manage the rationing of supplies. They were created to ensure that there were enough goods for our soldiers. All U.S. citizens were put on rations and given coupon books, kind of like the one up here, for the number of goods they could buy. They could only buy goods they had a coupon for. No coupon meant that you could not buy any more of that good. Here are some examples of propaganda to promote rationing and conservation. In addition, we saw propaganda to get Americans involved in the war effort. Rosie the Riveter, on the top left, was actually created to encourage women to work in factories. Anti-Japanese propaganda, down below that, was created to fuel the anger and support for the war, and the Double V campaign, on the right, was created to encourage everyone to work towards victory, both at home, so victory at home, and victory abroad. Much of this propaganda was directed towards specific groups. We'll look at this attitude towards specific groups more in the following notes. So this is actually the end of US Notes 3.6. Hopefully you learned something and bring any questions you have to class.